Who wants to retire early? You get to retire early. You get to retire early. You get to retire early. I think that's everyone's goal. Everyone's financial goal should be to retire early. Who wants to wait till they're 65 years old to retire? That is too old to retire. No one still wants to be working in their 60s. You need to enjoy life, and you need to enjoy life now. We are nurses, and the bedside is not sustainable. It's hard work. Let's just be honest. And I can't even fathom when I used to see some of my coworkers that were in their 60s and wanting to do an extra year so that they can get more money in Social Security. It's just not the way of the world anymore. And when it's time for you to retire and time for me to retire, guess what? Social Security is not going to be around. So don't think that you can depend on the government, because the government does not care. They're not going to have your back. If you think that you're going to depend on the government, you are going to be homeless under a bridge. Take my word for it. So now let's talk about retirement, because I'm retired. So I can tell you what you need to do in order to retire. But this video, I'm not going to be telling you what you need to do. I'm going to be telling you how to calculate your retirement number. It's called FIRE number. So what does FIRE stand for? FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. I got the privilege of retiring at 31 years old from the bedside. I told the hospital, deuces, I'm not gonna work for you anymore. I can't do bedside anymore. So the last time that I was in the bedside was 4th of July of 2020. That was my last assignment, my last strike as a nurse in an HCA hospital, which I absolutely love HCA, but I couldn't do it anymore. Why? Because my time is more valuable than the time that they were letting me have, okay? Because I had to dedicate 12-hour shifts, 7A to 7P to them, because I had to sustain my livelihood. So now let's figure out what our FIRE number is. Once I determined my FIRE number, it was go mode. So I'm here to teach you how to calculate your FIRE number. There is 2 components to this equation. The first component is, what are your annual expenses going to be? The second component is that you have to multiply your annual expenses by 25. Why 25? We'll get into that in a minute. So, what are your annual expenses going to be? You have to sit down with your spouse, whoever, and determine what your annual expenses either are right now or when you retire. So let's say that right now you live in New York in the hustle and bustle, and it's very expensive in Manhattan where you live. Let's say that right now your annual expenses are $100,000 a month, right? I meant a year. So, but in retirement, you're not going to be living worth $100,000 a year. You're going to cut that in half. And you're going to be living at $50,000 a year. Let's say you move to Mexico or Bahamas or somewhere like some remote island or something. So you are then going to be able to live modestly in your retirement, which a lot of people do. A lot of people, that's why they retire in the Caribbean, because it's more affordable in the Caribbean and you can sustain that lifestyle for a longer period of time. So you have to sit down and determine what is going to be your expenses. You have to have you have to keep in mind that you have healthcare expenses, you have housing expenses, you have medical expenses, you have utilities, you have food, you have maybe education, maybe children, maybe grandchildren, yearly expenses, hygiene. You have to think about all those things. So let me give you an example, because I want to give you what I did. So I calculated all of my monthly expenses in my retirement. The number that I decided was $6,800. That is my comfortable monthly expense in my retirement. That's going to cover housing, food, transportation, and everything that I need in order to sustain my quality of life, okay? And my lifestyle, the lifestyle that I want to live. $6,800. That's a good number. So now that you determine what your monthly expense is, you have to multiply that by 12, because we're doing years now. So 6,800 multiplied by 12 is 81,600. So now that I have 81,600, I know that that's my yearly expense. And if I'm going to retire, I need to be able to maintain my lifestyle in retirement for 25 years. That is the typical average retirement lifespan, okay? But I'm retiring young, so I'm probably gonna be like, 35, 45, 55 years, we'll see. But anyways, I did 25 years because that's the national average. So 81,600 multiplied by 25 years rendered me 2,040,000. So that is my fire number. That is the number that I need to achieve in my investment portfolio that is going to give me a passive income that will allow me to cover all of my monthly expenses of $6,800 a month. So that is how you are able to figure out your fire number. And I highly recommend that you go do this calculation right now. Because even though you're not at your fire number, even though that $2 million or that $1 million or that $3 million feels super big and far-fetched, it will put you in the momentum for you to think about retirement now. You need to be thinking about retirement in your 20s, not in your 40s. You need to be retiring early when you're in your 30s, because you want time freedom, you want financial freedom, you want to be able to do things on your terms. So go figure out your fire number and comment on this video below what your fire number is. I'm going to be looking forward to watching that.